have no idea how vulnerable I would like to be on the internet. And this is, I think it's something that I will be processing and thinking about as part of my philosophy as well. What does it mean to be fully expressed? And where is the line between honesty, healthy vulnerability? I did it. And oversharing. Oversharing actually is an interesting word, and I'm still trying to figure it out. I know the feeling of it. I know the feeling when I'm drained, and I know like I gave out a little bit too much information. Like, I know the feeling of it, yet I'm not sure I know where the line is. So there was a time when I saw honesty and oversharing as the same thing. And because I process things, because I think a lot, my thought process goes, I think, best when I talk through things. This is why I need this vlog or podcast or whatever I'm doing here. I need it specifically to not only to share the knowledge or the thought that has already been processed, but also to process thoughts and just to think through things and not to burden my friends too much. So I do need to talk through my thinking quite often. I think the most useful is the conversation with a friend who has a slightly different opinion and cares enough to make it a dialogue, yet also, let's say, when they have a capacity to not to override my opinion or view on things, but to balance the feedback, disagreement, and acceptance of another person's opinion. So that's pretty rare, and quite often people don't have time, myself included. Frankly, I don't always have time for those conversations either. And I think podcast or vlog or whatever, talking to my camera could be a version of it. Yet I've recorded quite a few videos that I never shared, or shared then deleted, because at some point, sometimes, not always, not all videos, not the whole video, when that happens, sometimes parts of my stories, they do feel too personal. And maybe one day I will learn how to edit those out, not to discard the whole thing, but it stopped me for a while, for about a year of a few attempts of recording. Now I think I'm more relaxed about it. I'm like, okay, so nobody cares anyway, and I will share something. It's not, I'm not sharing some weird secrets, and if someone knows a little bit more about my love life, oh well, I will delete that video, whatever. So I decided not to overthink it at this point. However, I'm still grappling with this question, so it's a background thing for me. What I learned though is that there is a type of information that is private for me and something that I frankly prefer not to share with anyone. And surprisingly, it's a mundane information. It's the information about my life, daily life. Not because it's any special, but rather that I think it's the opposite actually. I think it's because it's very kind of similar, like it's the same thing every day, and it's mostly my project. So to talk about that, I would have to report on progress on every project to a person who's asking, or it would sound like, oh, I was just working, but I don't have, like, I work or I sleep. I don't have any other, like, I work out, I work, I may go take pictures, I may go outside, or I'm busy with my projects. And frankly, going outside taking pictures is my project too. So like it is a similar set of things, and mostly like the most valuable part is also a background thing when I think. So I frankly really don't like to tell people like how was your day, like that thing. I think I do talk about that, but again, no, I don't. When I think about it, I don't talk with my family or friends about that. No, I don't like daily stuff. I like practical, like some solving some questions that I have, or thinking through a specific idea, that type of thing. I like, quite often I need, like, I may need to, let's say, process something when I'm overwhelmed with emotion. So I'm not sure if I would ever be comfortable bringing the emotional situation, for example, in this type of video, like on camera. But I can bring it to a friend for sure, and saying, hey, like, now I feel overwhelmed, and just be present while I think through things, because presence of another person kind of make it helps me to focus. Otherwise my thoughts could be scattered if something touched me deeply for whatever reason. But again, oversharing and stories that I share, my whole philosophy is experiential. It's based on lived experience and me processing life and figuring things out, something that worked for me and something that may be still in progress. And it has a background story quite often, and that's kind of, in a way, it's part of my thinking. I think it's a substantial part of the value. But yes, it is sharing. I don't know if I will be comfortable forever doing that. I think eventually I will, be skilled enough to structure my speaking so that it involves maybe examples from other people's lives or events rather than my own life. But we'll see, maybe that will never stop. My sharing may never stop. because it's part of my values. Like, I'm not sure if I will ever step away from being quite vulnerable and open and honest, because that's the value. I think there is a level of truth that is, first of all, not shameful. Like, how could anyone argue things that just happened in my life? It's not their life, it's my life, right? And even if I'm wrong, let's say labeling something, I cannot be technically wrong if it's how I felt or feel, and I may obviously see things differently, and that's kind of the whole point of what I do, to see things differently in a higher way, in every area of my life, and in being, and everything. So I don't know, my oversharing may never end, but I'm not sure if that's oversharing. I received that feedback quite a lot from men who cannot tolerate my thought process. So men who feel deeply uncomfortable with my thoughts. And again, I'm not claiming that those thoughts were an absolute example of structure and clarity. No, but that is still part of me. And when given space and, let's say, when welcomed, those thoughts are not that bad. However, some people prefer to, how do I say it gently? Some people prefer to avoid processing life, thinking through life. And I'm not saying that they're stupid, I'm not saying that they don't think about things, but it's more instrumental, I would say. It's more like, I don't even want to use the word practical, which I consider myself being a practical person. But some people prefer to go through life without overthinking. And that without overthinking, quite often, I think it limits actually their capacity to grow. So I think they could have received from growth in life slightly more than they do. But again, I'm not like painting everyone with the same brush. I cannot know for each and every one, right? So, but from my experience, people who complained about my oversharing or overthinking, they prefer not to go deep. It's just uncomfortable for them, and I think it's even painful for them. However, oversharing exists. And in my world, I guess oversharing is a thought that never ends and loses its structure somewhere in the middle of it, and becomes just a chain of events, like naming something that just happened without productive processing. And that happens. I'm trying to analyze it so that it's at the level of my awareness. Why it matters to me is because I decided to speak freely, without the script, just to speak my mind. I do care about the structure. I do care about the content. So how do I balance this freedom of thought, like free flowing, free form thought, and some kind of usefulness. Hypothetically, usefulness should not be up to me, but who knows? Who knows? I watched quite a few of vlogs, just random people talking about what they care about their daily lives. And I thought, oh, well, so people are sharing their stories, and it's fine. I can do the same. I don't have to put so much pressure on me. Yeah, but there's a difference between, okay, I'm not the worst one out, like I'm not the worst storyteller or worst one in clarity out there. Okay, people do tell stories, amazing. But there's another thing, like English, my second language. I do want it to be better. I do, like, I have this idea of clarity of speech. So at some point in my life, I had an idea of clarity of thought. And I'm getting there. But I paid attention to that for a while. There are levels to that. So the clarity of thought, just for processing my philosophy and understanding things and making sense of the world, that is at acceptable level. I'm not saying that I won't be improving it, that I don't want it to be better, but for now it's good. I'm comfortable with it. There is level of processing thought for writing. Oh God, I definitely want more, but it's not like disastrous. Depends on an effort. Okay, that's another thing. And clarity of thought when I speak. That's a third thing. And those are different levels. And it's fine that some are more developed than the other. It's fine. But I'm paying attention to that. I just care. I just care because damn, I'm building a philosophy, right? So it matters. I may come here and rant. I may come here and overshare. But I do care about what I eventually will bring into the world. For now, I'm just having fun. I think I need this moment of just getting things out there, like in volume. But eventually, I do need it to be more practical and structured and whatever. So I don't know. Anyway, I think at this point I should just stop talking there is no, let's say, conclusion here. I'm just processing what I feel in the moment, and I'm thinking about this thing that I'm doing. It is as simple as that. One more thing though. This reminded me, God, I'm trying to tell this story again and again in different videos. I'm not sure if it's a good idea. But I believe in early expression and natural expression that comes at the early age. It's the time before people from like society, school, family taught us what we should do and who we should be. So what happens in early childhood, to me, that is the purest form of expression. It doesn't have to be perfect. It probably won't be perfect, but if it shows up, it means something. And I had this idea when I was young. I had this idea that I will be a singer, and not just any singer. Frankly, it wasn't necessarily about singing. It was my love for music, and that's separate. So later I kind of unfolded it and realized that I was a little bit blending things into one, like microphone and being on the stage and music. However, it could have been an option. Anyway, I thought that I would be a singer, and a pretty successful one. I dreamt of the stage and crowds. But when my parents gave me a tape recorder with the mic, I spent quite a few minutes just doubting myself and thinking aloud. Guess what? It reminds me now, huh? Talking to a tape recorder, processing my thoughts. But then I felt like a complete failure. Like I was crushed because I couldn't sing. Not physically couldn't, but more of I needed to process this thought that came, like processing the thought. Doubts were there. Courage to sing wasn't there. But that was interesting. Not sure why I decided to tell the story here. And I mention it elsewhere, and I maybe mention it again and again because it's just so sweet. I mean, every time that I see the mic, and I do have a proper mic out there, when I will be recording on the proper gear, I will be thinking about it all the time. I have a soft spot for microphones because of that story, I guess. So anyway, oversharing it is.